Welcome to The Explainer. We're all about breaking down big topics. And today, wow, are we diving into a big one. We're going to rewind the clock to just one single year in video game history. A year that honestly changed everything.
Okay, so take a look at this list. Metal Gear, Final Fantasy, Street Fighter. These are absolute giants, legends. Now, what if I told you they all have the same birthday? Not just the same era, but the exact same year.
Yep, you guessed it, 1987. And it wasn't just another year on the calendar. You could make a serious case that this was the year gaming really found its footing, forged its identity. It was this perfect storm, a collision of creativity and new tech that basically laid out the roadmap for everything that followed.
So to really get why this year was so special, we've got to start where all the action was. I'm talking about the epicenter of 80s gaming culture, the arcade. Think about it. Back in '87, the arcade was at its absolute peak. It was loud, it was flashy, it was this vibrant testing ground for the craziest, most innovative ideas in the industry. This was the laboratory for new genres, right? From beat-em-ups to fighting games, the competition was absolutely fierce. Companies would just throw ideas out there to see what would make you spend that next quarter.
And man, in that crowded space, one game just took over. It completely dominated the charts, not just in one place, but everywhere. We're talking #1 in Japan, #1 in the UK, #1 in the US, a total global sensation.
And that game was, of course, Sega's Outrun. This thing was so massive, its influence was felt in pretty much every arcade on the planet. That mix of blistering speed, those cool branching paths, and oh my god, that soundtrack. It was, without a doubt, the undisputed king of the coin-op world that year.
But here's the crazy part. Outrun wasn't alone, not even close. 1987 also dropped all of these on us. And these are games that literally define their genres. Genres we're still playing today. Think about it. Double Dragon, it basically invented the co-op beat-em-up. Street Fighter, it gave us special moves. The whole Hadouken thing. These weren't just games. They were the actual blueprints for the future.
Okay, so the arcades were on fire. But as huge as that was, there was an even bigger revolution brewing. And it was happening right in our living rooms. And that revolution was spelled Nintendo. They weren't just leading the home console market. For all intents and purposes, they were the market. Just look at that number. Over 5 million consoles sold in 1987 alone. That's not just a customer base, that's a nation. A massive captive audience just waiting for the next big thing. And to put that into perspective, just look at this. The scale of their dominance was just staggering. For every single Master System that Sega managed to sell, Nintendo sold more than 5 of their consoles. That's not a lead, that's a landslide. And a gap that big gave them unbelievable power over the entire industry.
So what does that mean? Well, when you have that many consoles in people's homes, developers can suddenly afford to get really ambitious. They could pour time and money into making bigger, deeper games. The whole focus started to shift away from those short, get-a-high-score arcade experiences to these epic, sprawling adventures with actual stories, worlds you could get lost in for weeks.
And that's exactly what happened. On one hand, you had these beloved series that were evolving in really cool, ambitious ways, like Zelda 2 suddenly becomes this side-scrolling action RPG. But at the same time, a whole new class of legends was born. This is the year we got the first Metal Gear, the first Final Fantasy, the first Mega Man. I'm not kidding. The entire DNA of modern gaming is pretty much staring you in the face right here.
And the story behind Final Fantasy is just incredible. It was supposed to be the last game ever from this company called Square. They were basically on the verge of bankruptcy, so they threw everything they had left into this one, this Final Fantasy. It was a total Hail Mary, a last-ditch gamble, and it didn't just save the company, it created a global phenomenon. So you have to ask, right? How was all of this happening at once? This explosion of creativity? Well, a big part of the answer lies in the technology. The hardware itself was taking a massive leap forward.
So even while the 8-bit NES was king of the world, 1987 is the year that officially kicks off the next great console war, the 16-bit era. And that meant everything was about to change. We're talking a huge jump in graphics, in sound. This was the moment the future of gaming really started to arrive.
And it was all happening at once. This timeline really shows it. It was this perfect convergence. In April, you've got IBM introducing VGA graphics, a huge deal for PCs. Over the course of the year, the amazing Amiga 500 comes out. And then in October, bam, Japan gets the PC Engine, the world's very first fourth-generation console. All the pieces were falling into place.
And it's easy to forget, with all the console talk, but the PC was making its move. While Nintendo got all the headlines, that introduction of VGA graphics was absolutely critical. It was a quiet but relentless first step in the PC's journey to becoming the gaming powerhouse we know it is today. It was kind of a slow burn, but the foundation was definitely being laid right there.
Okay, let's pull back and put all these pieces together. What is the real, lasting impact of this one single explosive year?
When you break it down, it's actually a really clear blueprint. First, you have the arcades, where they perfected these core gameplay ideas. Then, you had the home consoles, which proved there was a huge market for these long, epic sagas. And finally, you had the tech leap, the new hardware that opened the door for everything to get bigger and better. It was that three-part attack that made 1987 so ridiculously special.
So, when you get right down to it, the creative seeds that were planted back in 1987, they grew into the genres, the franchises, and even the business models that define the industry we have today. This wasn't just a great year for games. It was a foundational year, the year that set the entire industry on the path it's still on. In a lot of ways, it was the year gaming finally grew up.
So it really leaves you with a question, doesn't it? From stealth action to JRPGs to fighting games, the echo of 1987 is absolutely everywhere. So how many of the games you play today owe their DNA to the class of 1987? When you're playing the latest RPG or a brand new fighter, just remember, you're playing a legacy that was forged in this one single remarkable year.